Okay, here's my latest turning, and you see it's still on the lathe. It's about 9 inches long and about 3.5, 4 inches in diameter. And I'm showing this to you now. It's got 2 coats of finish on it. The next step is going to be to cut the the piece off of the faceplate. Actually, I'm going to use my bandsaw and cut it right here. I don't tend to use parting tools. And the method to do all this, I'm going to show step by step so you can see how I do it. I'm not saying it's the best way, but it's the way that works for me, and I found it keeps my fingers safe. And I haven't destroyed a piece yet, so hopefully I won't destroy this one. You can see it's quite a few layers, laminations intersecting, overlapping on an 8-sided core. So that takes that part of it takes about 3 months to build the blank up because it just plain goes slow. And the wood is typically veneer up to maybe 1/8 or even sometimes 1/4 inch. I try to jumble them up a bit. You can see that. So let's get on with it. I'm going to take this off and show you the next step. Okay, I've taken this off the lathe, obviously. Here we are, and we're ready to cut it off of the waste block at the point where I'm going to turn the foot. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to hold it in the vise by grabbing the hex nut from this homemade faceplate. Anytime you cut on the bandsaw like this, you have to keep in mind that you're cutting a round piece, and as soon as the blade starts to grab it, if it's not held securely, it's going to treat it like a gear, and it will pull it right out of your hand. So you always want to hold it some mechanical device like a vise. Certainly is my first choice. And even if this was round like a conventional, a lot of faceplates are round like this, it's still better if you're grabbing it in the vise. It won't let it start that little rotation. If it just moves a little bit, that's when the blade gets it, grabs it, will pull out of your hand, and disaster ensues from that point. So let's get on with cutting this. I realize now I have to plug my bandsaw in, so let me do that. Okay, I'm back. Always better to have the bandsaw plugged in when you start. Anyway, here's the blade. I hope you can see it. I'm going to put this in place, and you see I have it on a riser block of wood above the table. That gives me range to work with, so I'm not resting right on the table. I'd also advise that, tempting though it might be, you think you're safer if you wear gloves. Do not. If anything grabs, you don't want the glove to grab and pull your hand into the business end of this bandsaw. I'm going to fire it up now. It's going to make an awful lot of noise, but I think you'll see the process. Hopefully it will move along quite nicely here. Now you always want to run your bandsaw fast. I'm fortunate because my bandsaw, I've custom built it with a 3-phase motor and a motor controller, so I can dial in whatever speed I want. So I can also cut metal with this bandsaw. But most conventional wood bandsaws will go quick. I'm using about I guess it's about a 1/4 per inch blade on this. And you see we're done. So it's off the faceplate successfully. That's always good. And the next step now will be to move back to the lathe and set this up with a scroll chuck and a steady rest. And I'm going to walk you through that and my reasonings for behind every step right now. Well now, while you were waiting, I've been busy. As you can see, I've got this set up on the lathe ready for the cut. And I'm using a steady rest, which I believe was built from a Sherman tank. It's very heavy, but you can never go too strong on a steady rest. So what I've got here is a scroll chuck with the extension jaws. I'm using the grippers that I sell. You see these pieces of wood here. Normally when I'm using a wood to index the piece away from the chuck jaws, and I'm doing that because of the shoulder on the grippers. You don't want to hit the metal, so you want to step the wood turning away from the jaws a little bit. And that's what these pieces of wood do. They have to be all identical, of course, as you can imagine. But once you do that, I typically pull those pieces of wood out once I clamp the jaws tight. But in this case, I'm leaving them there. If you do that, what I've done here, underneath each one of these, sticking that to the chuck jaw, is a piece of carpet tape. Because otherwise, these will likely fly out, and they always seem to choose the moment when your face is in the way, and they come out like little bullets. So you want to secure those on with tape if you're going to leave them in place. Before I thoroughly tighten that, though, you see I've got a nice blunt end pushing fairly moderately down on there to make sure we're perfectly straight before I tightened up the jaws. Then, when I did that, I positioned the steady rest rollers so that they would engage. Now, since this is a 4-roller steady rest, I can't get really down in the small diameter because then the wheels will touch. So I had to be up here a little bit, but it's still going to serve the purpose. Now, as you can see, this is going to rotate very nicely, but there's a little bit of run out on that foot because the bandsaw blade didn't go perfectly true to it. So yeah, for that reason, when I do the initial cut, I'm going to leave the tailstock in place just to give it that little added security and support. And then once I get it trued up and a pocket developed in here, then I'll probably pull this out of the way and clean it all up, and I'll show you that next. So let me set you up on a tripod and we'll fire up the lathe and see if after all this setup it actually works. Okay, I think we're ready to do this now, so let's fire up the lathe, get her spinning. And it seems pretty good. Let me pull you in a little bit tighter. Now, when you go to do something like this, I'll say it again as I always do, sharp edge on the tool. I just took this off the grinder, so it should be good. And I like to spin fast, even though it's a little nerve-wracking when you're doing something like this, but let's have a go at it. Okay, pretty close to having all that run out of the face. Still got a little bit of glue on there, so let's pull it down a little bit more. Okay, now the real nerve-wracking part. Got to finish this up completely. So, let's do it. Okay, that's a pretty nicely defined foot. I think I can live with that. And now I'm going to put another little detail on here that I usually wait till I sand a little bit, but I wanted to show you. I'm going to use this tool here, and I hope you can see that. I hope the camera resolves it well. Trying to get that. I don't know. Anyway, it's a very sharp point. This is a 1/8 inch cutter, and I like to put my little signature double ring in there, which is where I sign the piece. So I'm going to show you how that's done. This is just a plunge cut, but there's a little detail that I want to point out after I do it. And the detail I was going to mention is that, you see, I just plunged it in there. There's no real magic to that. But once you get to the depth you think you want, leave it sit there for several revolutions. That helps eliminate the fuzzies that you tend to get when you do that kind of a plunge cut. So now I'm just going to sand it, which is nothing special. And then I'm pretty much done with this. I'm going to put the finish on it, and I'll show you the finished piece later. Bye. Well, I'm finished, and clearly it survived. So I got the bottom ready to be signed and numbered and put the name on, but I wanted to show you that it lives, and it looks like a pretty nice piece. And this is, of course, video in my shop. We'll take some glamour photos later, and I'll probably put them on my website. And this is destined for a show this fall. I hope to get in. I'm glad you watch my videos. Have a safe day in the shop, and we'll see you soon.